Hello friends, welcome back to Exploring Art. I hope you had a nice week. I've got a really fun thing happening for us today, but let's introduce Exploring Art to some friends that might be joining us for the first time today. In Exploring Art, what we do here is I introduce you to a famous artist or a style of art, and then we create our own work of art inspired by the work of the artist that we learn about. Now, our goal here is not to make something that looks exactly like the artist, because we are not that artist. We are ourselves and we are our own artist, and we create things using our own heart and our own mind and our own fingers to make things the way that we think that they should look, because you are the artist today. Okay? We use lots of different materials here. Sometimes we use crayons, sometimes we use markers, sometimes we use paints, sometimes we use paper and glue. So we use a lot of different materials in Exploring Art, and we're going to have a great time today, just like we always do. All right, as always, I'm going to tell you what our supply list for today is before I introduce the artist of the day. Okay, our supply list for today is you need some white paper. It doesn't have to be white. It can be whatever color you want to use today. I put white originally, but I decided that I wanted to use yellow today instead, and that's okay because I'm the artist of my own work. Pencil, scissors, colored construction paper, and glue. Okay, so paper, glue, scissors, those are really what we're going to need today. Okay, so there's our supply list for today. All right, so you ready to learn about today's artist? Here she is. You see her? All right, this is Alma Woodsey Thomas. She was born in 1891 in Columbus, Georgia. So she's another American artist. We've been doing a lot with American artists lately, so she's an American artist. In 1907, her family moved to Washington, D.C., and she was the oldest of 4 girls. Now, she didn't want to be an artist. Some of the artists we've talked about knew that they always wanted to be an artist, but she wanted to be an architect, and she wanted to build bridges. But unfortunately, there weren't very many women artists women architects a century ago, so she had to do something else. So she went to Howard University and became the first fine arts graduate in 1924. So she studied art in college. Okay. In 1924, she began teaching art at a high school. So she was a high school art teacher. And that's how she supported herself. And she did her own painting part-time. So in the evenings, on the weekends, she would teach high school art during the week, and she would create her own art on the evenings and weekends. Okay. Her early art was realistic, but her professors challenged her to experiment with abstract art. Now, we've talked about abstract before. Remember, abstract art doesn't really look specifically like an item, but you can get a sense of it. Sometimes it's all just random, all whatever you want. It's abstract, like Jackson Pollock strips and drops. So it's really a creative way of expressing yourself. Okay. When she retired from teaching and was able to do her art full-time, she developed her own style. So it took her a long time. She really didn't start creating her own artwork until she was an adult. Okay, much older. Okay. She debuted her work at an exhibition at the college at Howard University in 1966 at the age of 75. She was 75 years old when she had her first exhibition. Okay. Her work has been compared to the Byzantine mosaics, the pointillist technique of Georges Seurat. We did Seurat a few weeks ago. Remember, he was the artist that used all those little tiny dots and put them together to create a piece of work, remember? All right. And she was quite distinctive in her work. She became an important role model for women, for African Americans, and for older artists, because she was a woman, she was African American, and she was 75 years old when she had her first exhibit. Okay. She was the first African American woman to have a solo exhibit at New York's Whitney Museum of American Art, the very first one. That's very exciting. And she exhibited her paintings at the White House 3 times. So she was an amazing woman, an amazing artist, and she really didn't start coming into her own until she had time to do it full time. Her first exhibit at age 75. So here she is. This is Alma Woodsey Thomas. Okay, so let me show you some of her work. Okay. All right, tell me, what do you see here? So we see color, right? She used a lot of color in this one. She did not stick to a particular color palette. Remember, Monet used a lot of pastels. Jackson Pollock used just the blacks and the whites and things like that. Mondrian was always the primary colors. She used whatever color she felt went together very well. So now I'm going to move it really close so you can see. Do you see all the little pieces there? It looks like it's little tiny pieces, just like Seurat with his dots, but she made, they're kind of like dashes or lines, okay? And she painted them close together and decided how she wanted to create them, okay? So this one she called Irises, Tulips, Jonquils, and Crocuses, and she created this one in 1969. Okay, here's another one. Now here she's using a softer color palette. She's got shades of pink. This is called Wind and Crepe Myrtle Concerto, and it was created in 1973. So once again, if you look really close, you can see the individual brush strokes, okay? And the way she arranged them, she consciously arranged them, decided where she was going to put that paint, okay? So this is what we're going to do, but you can see how it was inspired by mosaics, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to create a mosaic-inspired piece of work out of construction paper today. So go ahead and get your messy tray and your supplies, and we'll get started. Okay, I've got my messy tray. Here it is. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to use yellow paper today. Okay, I didn't want to use white. I changed my mind. I have scissors. I have colored construction paper, lots of different colors. I have green, I have red, I have purple, I have orange, and I have my glue. Okay, so once you have your supplies all set, I'm going to show you how we're going to get started today. All right, you're going to take your colored construction paper, and what you're going to do is you're going to cut it into small pieces, small squares. So I'm just going to show you here. I'm just going to cut it into a strip first. And then I'm going to cut my strips into little squares. Okay, so they're not going to be exact, remember, and we're not measuring our squares. We're cutting them the size that looks good to us, that it's going to look wonderful in our art today. I'm going to cut some red ones. Okay, so once you're done, you're going to have, pour these into my hands, you can see a handful, okay, of colored squares. Here we go, lots of colored squares. All right, then once you have your colored squares, you need to decide how you want to arrange them on your paper. If we look at Alma's work, she did stripes, but you might want to make a circle, put a color in the center, and then go all around the circle. You might want to alternate your colors and make a pattern of your colors in your rows. It's up to you. So I'm going to just take my glue and I'm going to brush it on my yellow paper. Remember I said I'm using yellow today, but you can use whatever you like. I'm going to put some glue on my paper, and then I'm going to glue my cut paper squares onto my yellow paper in a way that I like. I think I'm going to make a pattern. I'm going to do yellows, nope, greens and oranges, I think, on my yellow paper. So I'm going to glue a few, and then I'll show you what I'm doing. Okay. Let me show you what I have so far. So here, this is what I'm doing. I've cut my small squares of colored construction paper, and I'm arranging them in a pattern or a design that I find pleasing, because I am the creator of my own work, just as you are the creator of your own work. I'm going to do another row. Let's see. Maybe I'm going to alternate this time. Maybe I'm going to do orange-green in my pattern instead of green-orange. Let's see what that looks like. So like I said, you can use whatever colors you want. You can use bright colors like she did in her one piece of work, or you can use different shades of colors. You could do different shades of pinks or different shades of blue, light blues and dark blues, or light greens and dark greens. Or you could do the rainbow colors. You could do whatever you want because you are the artist. All right, I'm going to stick one more on here. There we go. So as always, I created one earlier today. Let me show you the one that I did earlier today. There it is. Okay, can you see the resemblance to Alma's work? Yeah, I guess if I go that way, then it looks even more similar, doesn't it? But I kind of like it this way. So, takes a little longer to do the mosaic style. It does. And we didn't use paint. She used paint. We're going to use paper. Okay, but you're going to create your own mosaic type piece of art inspired by the work of artist Alma Woodsey Thomas. So have a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.